Every single year, we see players drafted after round 10 or later that go out and win fantasy football leagues. In 2025, this will be no different. And there are 7 different players that are stacked at the end of your drafts right now that have league winning upside that we need to take a look at. So let's hop right into this video and break down these 7 league winners after round 10 this year. What's up, everybody? My name is Ryan Linkletter. You guys can find me at BlitzLink on socials. We are talking league winners today after round 10. And let's start out in Chicago with Roshan Johnson. Now, Roshan Johnson obviously is coming off a year where we had a little bit higher expectations, considering the fact that DeAndre Swift was an inefficient back. Maybe Johnson was going to earn a higher role, only finished with 5.5 points per game. And his current ADP is RB58 right now, meeting our threshold of over 10th round. Now, we all know this Bears team has had a loud offseason. They've completely rebuilt the interior part of their offensive line. We know that Ben Johnson is now their head coach, and it causes a lot of excitement in my mind. And that also comes from excitement that we know DeAndre Swift is not necessarily a workhorse back who deserves 25 touches a game, is going to play 85% of snaps. That's not going to happen. It is going to be down to Roshan Johnson and Kyle Monagai to provide that 1A, 1B type of backfield that Ben Johnson has loved to deploy. Now, throughout Ben Johnson's time as an offensive coordinator, it has been a running back gold mine in Detroit. In 2022, Jamal Williams scored 13.3 points per game and 17 touchdowns, while DeAndre Swift had 13.7 points per game and 8 touchdowns. Then in 2023, a new backfield, Dave Montgomery had 14.8 points per game and then 14 touchdowns. Jahmyr Gibbs, 16.1 points per game and 11 touchdowns. Then in 2024, David Montgomery had 15.8 points per game and 12 touchdowns. Then Jahmyr Gibbs had 21.3 points per game and 20 touchdowns. He is constantly producing 25 plus touchdown seasons as a coach, and that is in a large part due to his zone rushing scheme. And it's going to work well for Roshan Johnson, a guy who hasn't necessarily had a lot of opportunities, but he still had a 56.4% rushing success rate while also facing the most defenders in the box in the NFL. I think Johnson, with a little bit more opportunity, a stronger scheme, can also help. I mean, last year he scored 6 touchdowns on 55 carries, and 61.5% of his snaps were within the 5 yard line. Ben Johnson will help this offense improve its efficiency. We all know Johnson has proved last season that he can be effective around the goal line. Pair all that together, Roshan Johnson after round 10 makes no sense right now, and you need to make sure that you are drafting him in your fantasy football drafts. The next player, J.J. McCarthy, from the Minnesota Vikings. McCarthy missed all of 2024 last year due to injury and is currently valued as the quarterback 19. Now, in 2025, the Minnesota Vikings return a lot of that offense that was really good and helped Sam Darnold have a really career year basically for the Minnesota Vikings. KOC always produces starting quarterbacks at a high level. He has had 23 plus point performances for each of his quarterbacks since he took over as the Vikings head coach. Now, there's skill position players. We all know about Justin Jefferson. They have Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, and they also improved that interior part of their offensive line that really struggled last year. This offense is loaded with talent, and he also has a ground game to take a little bit of that pressure off. When we're looking at quarterback one upside type players, you need rushing upside and passing efficiency. This Vikings offense is ranked top 10 in passing efficiency. A lot of times under KOC last year, they're right outside the top 10, but Sam Darnold was still able to finish as a quarterback one. And then you need 300 plus rushing yards. And JJ McCarthy was incredibly effective on the ground, and his legs are a big asset. Now, he is coming off a torn meniscus. We'll see if he is running as much as he did in college, but McCarthy was athletic and he ran the ball well in college, and we saw him in the preseason be very effective in KOC's scheme. And he really seems like a quarterback one that's hidden after round 10 right now. The next player is Trey Benson for the Arizona Cardinals. Benson's coming off a 3.6 point per game season in 2024, and his current ADP is the RB47. Now, a lot of people were high on Trey Benson heading into last season because he had 4.39 speed coming out, which was 97th percentile. He also had 4.6 yards per carry last year, which showcased what he can do. And the player he is. But James Conner stayed healthy all of last season, had a really productive season. For the first time in his career, he was healthy the entire year, basically. Trey Benson never got that opportunity to where he could, showcase his talents. And I think this is the year where we see Benson potentially work in. Jonathan Gannon has mentioned this team is leaning towards more of a 1A, 1B combination in the backfield. And with Kyler Murray there, it always helps improve the efficiency of the backs in that backfield. With James Conner and Trey Benson mixing in potential touches. And then we all know Connor struggled with injuries in the past and has reached 30 years old. Trey Benson, after round 10 right now, feels like a guy that could earn himself RB2 work towards the end of the season if Connor does miss time, or he potentially overtakes Connor towards the end of the season. Our next player is Drake May, a popular name right now in the sleeper community. Drake May does have league winning upside. There's no other way to put it. The guy was an absolute baller when he finished games last year. He was within the top 10 quarterbacks, finishing as the quarterback 11, 18.7 points per game when he finished games. He averaged 7.8 yards per carry, and then he had a 10.79% scramble rate, which was second among quarterbacks and more than Josh Allen last year. Now, entering 2025, he's a quarterback 17 right now in ADP, but this offense has been completely revamped. They made additions on the offensive line, which was, I don't know about you guys, but that offensive line was abysmal to watch last year. That offense has improved. They add Stephon Diggs in the receiver room, giving him another weapon. Kyle Williams is also in there as well, and he's kind of a sleeper name. Travion Henderson is one of the biggest home run hitters in the draft class coming out. Another big time addition for them. And they also have a defense that can get off the field this year. So Drake May, he was on pace for 617 rushing yards across a full season. Expect his rushing upside to carry him within the top 12 quarterbacks, and he's not being drafted there right now. And after round 10, I'm looking for upside at the quarterback position, and Drake May really has that upside to vault into that top 5 conversation just because of his legs alone. If this Patriots offense can pass block and throw the ball down the field even better, it's an even more bonus for Drake May, who already has a high floor due to that rushing upside. Expect big things from Drake May here in 2025. Heading into our fifth player here, it is Brenton Strange, tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Strange is coming off of a, late start to his rookie campaign where he averaged 5.4 points, but in the 8 games Evan Ingram missed, Strange caught 29 passes for 275 yards and 2 scores. He broke out in week 14, earning 12 targets with 11 catches and 73 yards. And a lot of people are excited about his potential upside heading into year 2 and being that tight end 1 with now Evan Ingram heading to the Denver Broncos. He only had 45.4% route rate last year, which wasn't necessarily ideal, but he still managed to see 53 targets and a 1.5 yards per target per route run, which is nice to see. Now, this passing offense is obviously going to run through Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter most likely, but Liam Cohen has proven year after year that he is going to be among the top 10 in terms of passing volume on a year-to-year basis. And then, as well, this Jaguars defense is not necessarily barn burners by any means. This team is going to have to pass the ball a lot in order for them to, basically stay in games. This offense is going to have the volume, and Brenton Strange as the third target can be very viable in PPR purposes, and he's going as the tight end 21. Expect him to potentially hop into that tight end 1 tier and be a consistent option all season long for you at the tight end position. Our next player, Jalen Wright for the Miami Dolphins. Wright is coming off of a little bit of a disappointing year. Everybody had high hopes for him as a rookie coming out of Tennessee, where the Dolphins actually traded up in the draft to go ahead and get him, but never really materialized. Devon Achane obviously was the workhorse last year. Raheem Mostert took a significant step down, and now Raheem Mostert finds himself out of Miami. Right after a down year where he only averaged 1.8 points per game, and he's valued as the RB 53 right now, which is really nice to see. But last year, despite limited touches, Wright ranked 13th of 61 running backs in explosive run rate with at least 60, rushing attempts. Devon Achane's not necessarily the most healthy back in general. Every year of his career, he's had some injuries he's had to deal with. 2023, he had a foot injury, a shoulder injury, a knee injury, and then in 2024, he had an ankle injury, and then he's also only 188 pounds. He doesn't necessarily have that build to potentially stay on the field as long. I love me some Devon Achane, but pairing him and having less touches for him is probably the best case scenario in a more 1A, 1B type style that we saw with Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane in the past. Now, I fully expect that Mike McDaniel will deploy this duo because he's done it every single year as the head coach of the Dolphins. And I think Jalen Wright, right where he's valued right now as the team's RB2, I don't want to say Alexander Madison is going to get no time in this offense, but I wouldn't consider him a threat. Jalen Wright is a player they traded up for, and a lot of the positives that we looked at with him last year are still there. And I think that more opportunity this year will lead to better fantasy success. And right now, him being priced at RB53 is kind of egregious. This guy has RB2 upside if he gets more volume. And then if Devon Achane goes down, we all know anybody at the Miami Dolphins backfield with a healthy Tua can be an RB1 on a weekly basis. Our final guy here is Marvin Mims, third-year player for the Denver Broncos. Last season, averaged 7.6 fantasy points per game and currently valued at the wide receiver 54. Now, we saw towards the end of last season, Marvin Mims significantly took a step forward, and his final metrics were actually pretty good. Yards per route run, he was the wide receiver 4 at 2.57. Screen targets, he had 27, which is the second most in the NFL. And then he ranked first in yards after the catch. This guy is a home run hitter, and with more volume, it's very, very interesting to see what Marvin Mims can do in year 3. And we saw last year that Sean Payton got him the ball more towards the end of the season. And we saw spike weeks with 25, 27 points where Marvin Mims was incredibly good. And it was nice to see. But what I will say is that the biggest thing that concerns me with Mims breaking out is the potential of somebody else stepping up within offense. They drafted Pat Bryant, but he's a different type of player. Marvin Mims is the true go out, get me a deep catch type player. Wide receiver 54 right now. I think in standard and half PPR, he's a little bit more valuable just based on touchdown upside and the big threat and big play ability. But Marvin Mims, Sean Payton's going to find a way to get his playmakers the ball. And Marvin Mims is a playmaker that you guys need to be paying attention to at the end of your drafts, throwing a flyer on him and saying, I know Marvin Mims is going to have plays drawn up for him every week. And that is something that you want on your roster. So, all in all, those are 7 players that I think have league winning upside right now after round 10. Let me know down in the comments section below which of these players you plan on targeting. If there's anybody I missed, also drop that down below. Hit that subscribe button for more Blitz fantasy football content, and I'll catch you guys next time.